Hey, did this thing work or not? Hey, I'm Suzanne Titkemeyer. I once was a Pathos. I wrote for Pathos for almost 10 years for No Longer Quivering, covering a variety of subjects, mostly the quiverful world, mostly evangelical fundamentalism that believed in having as many children as possible with no birth control. And that covers a whole lot of people. After I had seen Todd Chrisley, listen to Todd Chrisley's um, thoughts on the whole him suing KJ thing, him suing Katie Joy Paulson without a crystal ball. And I had some distinct thoughts last night, and I'm still having distinct thoughts right now about it. I don't know. I don't know. I'm having problems with the internet this morning, so I don't know if you'll be able to. I don't know if the any of this is going to work. I don't know if chat's going to work or any of that. But here it is. If it doesn't, I'll repeat it again tonight. First, I wanted to say, yet again, let's not go real life. Why am I saying this? Because I'm seeing something today that was rather curious. It makes me wonder exactly who it is. If it's somebody with, why do you do this every time I get on? If it's somebody with connections, maybe, who is trying to build and spin the narrative. We keep seeing that over and over. Spin the narrative, build the narrative, shift the narrative. I hate that freaking word narrative. Can I just say that? It's just stupid, and more oopid stay. Basically, when I hear narrative, I think liar. Because that's one of those things where people are going to tell you the sky is some other color than blue and expect you to believe it. And if you don't, they're going to make fun of you. Hey, Real Entertainment News. So we've had this curious new person pop up on Twitter. Goes by the name of Madman Mike. Or if you're going to go by the actual Twitter name behind that, it's Bubble H00779707. Okay, this person, somebody that most of us have never seen, suddenly popped up and started talking about going real life on Katie Joy. He started urging Dottie Morgan to drive by Katie Joy's house. Started encouraging people to call CPS. Started saying just all these real life things. And this is somebody none of us have ever talked to that I know of, claiming to have been banned off of Twitter for a while. And their only contributions to the KJ Truther Society is to say, let's go real life. No, let's not go real life. Let's ignore Mike. Just by the way that Mike came in and the things that he's saying, I have every reason to believe that Mike is somehow connected to Todd and Katie, and that not Todd Chrisley, the other Todd, maybe I should say Toad, and he's trying to get, yeah, I think it's a trap, Kentucky Girl. I think it's one of them, and they're trying to, or related to one of them, and they're trying to get people to go real life so that Katie can say, oh, the stalkers are driving me crazy. They're going real life. They're calling CPS. They're doing this. They're doing that. They're driving past my house. People are sick, Real Entertainment News. And I don't know, my mind just does not work like that. That's why I said I hate the word narrative. My mind does not work like that. I don't say, oh, the first thing I got to do is do X, Y, and Z to this person. Oh, hell no. As much as I dislike Katie Joy's problematic behavior, I would not wish anybody to ever go real life on her. And I've said this before, don't go real life. Don't threaten, don't harass, don't anything of the creators. We can just sit back and see what happens, which leads me to my second thing I want to talk about. Todd Chrisley last night. Now, last night I talked about it because I heard the whole thing. I laid down and tried to sleep, could not sleep, got up, ranting about that late at night when I'm not super sharp all the time. Not that I'm super sharp now. I tend to be not so sharp since I've had my ophthalmic stroke and I'm on all this crazy meds. So there's that. Well, Todd may be, everybody's thinking that Todd is his savior that's going to take down KJ. I think he's going to lay a hurting on her, most definitely. Now, he is not Jesus Christ risen from the grave again to be some sassy Southern man, and Todd Chrisley is sassy to the extreme. Oh, what time is it here? I think I'm in the same time zone as you. It's 10 a.m., 10:09 a.m. I am on Mountain Time right now. Costa Rica is so close to the border that we do not have time zones. Just confusing because the U.S. does. And so part of the year I'm in Mountain, part of the year I'm in Central. And that's created some crazies when I'm trying to call the states and get things done. It's like, yeah, what time is it right now there? So there's that. So that's what the time zone is. So that late that sounds like 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm up ranting about Todd Chrisley versus KJ. She's really stuck her foot in it this time because Todd, as I said last night, Todd may not have unlimited funds. I don't know what his financial worth is. People have talked about going and trying to see what his financial worth is, running, looking for it. But a lot of times, especially if you're wealthy and you've got everything hidden in corporations, it's really hard to determine exactly how much worth somebody has, what their actual worth is. And I think Todd's probably worth a pretty penny. Even with today, he's apparently going to court in his taxation case. Katie was tweeting about that last night and telling him she wished him luck because there's a 30-year sentence attached to it and all this. Well, my understanding is either today or tomorrow, those restraining order cases that she filed will go to court and she'll have to prove up or shut up. And I don't think that knowing who she's taking the restraining orders out on, I don't think she's going to be able to prove a thing. It's going to be just like with Steve McRae, when she took Steve McRae and she said all those false things about Steve that she could not prove in a court of law. And then she's like, okay, we'll settle, but we got to have a non-disclosure agreement. I suspect she's going to try to pull the exact same thing this time. If we know anything about KJ, we know that she is repetitive. She never learns. She never shifts what she's doing. It's always the same. Create all these false narratives, take out restraining orders, force. It's always the same. Create all these false narratives, take out restraining orders, force people to get NDAs to drop the restraining orders on the false. Little Miss Noble and whoever else it was, probably her friend Dustin, stand tall. She doesn't have any real evidence. And she's probably falsified what she said in the TRO. That would be my guess. She certainly did against Steve. She started saying all this crap about Steve supposedly sexually approaching her in some way and was saying room in her TRO. Room, like they were in the same room, like I'm in the same room with the cat. But no, she was not ever in the same room with Steve. They were in the same, quote, room on the software Steve was using. But Bullinator, Steve's behind-the-scenes guy, was there too. And he said many a time before he sadly passed away that Steve didn't do any of the things that she keeps inventing. She keeps coming up with different stories about what it was that Steve did to her. Steve did nothing to her. I'm convinced of that, even though this is just my opinion. My opinion. It's not anything but opinions. My opinion is Steve did nothing. And that she invented that, because we have seen that too. She invents tales against those. She immediately demonizes those that she has a falling out with. They suddenly become the person that, I guess, the person that killed whoever. Conspiracy theories. Come up with a conspiracy theory. I'm drawing a blank this morning. Probably from listening to my silly husband and his conspiracy theories. He's got a pile of them. And I just tune out in one ear and straight out the other when he starts ranting about 9/11 or vaccines or whatever. And I think this is what we're going to see. What we're seeing now is what we're going to continue to see through this thing going to court. We're going to see Katie taking her typical steps that she does. Lie, throw crap, pull out her son or her animals if the heat gets too hot, and oh, poor me, play like the victim, try to bait people into doing the wrong thing just so she can scream victim, and so on. Whoops, there goes my Diet Coke. I guess I can't open that for another 20 or 30 minutes. Oh, well. So the other thing I wanted to talk about today, and I talked about a little bit last night, and I cannot put this in the description anywhere because if I do, YouTube likes to spank me. I'm talking about the beer bug, the beer virus, the COVIDiots. Last night, we got a series of disturbing emails from a family member, not our kids. I'm just going to come around and say that. But a family member in the greater family who was talking about their spouse having contracted COVID. And this person is ranting about the vaccines. They're completely vaccinated, when their family's vaccinated. Yet they're screaming out a pile of conspiracy theories about the vaccines. Here's what I have to say about that. And I just have to say this. And, my husband almost started to go in that conspiracy thing. And I was like, nope, don't do it. I'm pointing out a couple of things. Here's the thing about the vaccines that are going on right now. The people are being vaccinated. The vaccines aren't perfect. But I need to point out no vaccine is ever perfect. Even with a couple of years of trials, things can go haywire. Things can happen. Doesn't work for everybody. It certainly did not work for everybody. I got the Johnson & Johnson because I know the science around traditional vaccines is pretty rock solid. Killed or weakened virus, put it inside you, your immune system looks at it, and your immune system comes up with antibodies to fight it. That's established science. There's nobody that can argue with that, even though I do hear the anti-vaxxers. And that's one thing I do agree with KJ Paulson on, is the fact that I know they're flagging everybody's videos real, but as I've said many times, I'm not in this for money. I'm not trying to I'm not trying to conquer the world and make $25,000 a month like KJ has bragged about. Not at all. What am I going to do with more money? Am I going to put in a sauna? Maybe I'll put in a second hot tub. Maybe I can line my hot tub with gold and fur. My needs are simple. I am blessed beyond my wildest dreams. I never dreamed I would end up here living like this. Okay, well, I'll stop saying the C word. That's why I said the COVIDiots and I said the beer bug. I got the Johnson & Johnson. Me with my terrible asthma, who has reacted to regular vaccines before. And the only thing that happened is I got sleepy. My husband had no reaction to it. The other vaccines are a little different because they are kind of like, I've talked about this before, they're a little bit like perfect words. Yeah, that's the thing. Real, that's just the scary thing to me about YouTube, side ramble. There are really serious things to talk about. And like a lot of the people that I follow and I watch their videos the most, they're talking about serious legal issues, serious medical issues, history. And, the history of like what happened in 1918 is that it genuinely took 3 years to kill what was going on. And that was in a world that vaccines had not happened except for smallpox, I think it was. So there's that. And I think they got long here with the different variants and all the crazy stuff that's happened throughout the world with this. It's just going to take time. And yeah, these vaccines were not as vetted as a lot of them are. But let me tell you, even vetting vaccines does not guarantee you no problems. I had the first shingles vaccine that came out because I was having shingles. I was having a lot of shingles. I was having it. My young daughter was having it. My youngest would have it. We have it because our immune systems are screwed up and we both have bleeding disorders. So we would have shingles on a regular basis. And let me tell you something. If you've never had shingles, it is a pain unlike anything you've ever felt before. It's pretty bad. It's a nerve pain. So when the shingles vaccine came out, we were kind of like, sign me up. At first, they're only doing senior citizens. When they moved it from senior citizens, we went and got vaccinated. What happened to me was I had anaphylaxis days later, a couple days later. I had the kind of anaphylaxis where it doesn't swell your throat shut like normally I get when I eat a peanut, throat swell shut, EpiPen, ER, that fun sequence. I didn't have that. What I had was my blood pressure went into my shoes. Always fun when you stand up and faint. So mine went that bad. My blood pressure went real super low. My heart rate went real super high. And I kept fainting and having these other symptoms. And it was like ER now. So I went in and they determined I had had an anaphylactic reaction to the shingles vaccine. Well, that particular vaccine was pulled off the market eventually. And it was interesting because it was the only time I've ever had to do that. I've had to fool with Food and Drug Administration and their vaccine reporting system or all of that. And I did talk on the phone to them. I got a call. The person that administered it, the company, they got a call and they took a report in the whole 9 yards. And I wasn't permanently injured. I was just sick for a few days. And so that was it. But later that vaccine was pulled. That was pulled from the shelves. And they have a newer, safer one now. Now, I've not had shingles. And that was a shot that was supposed to take 2. I only had the first one. But I've not had shingles since then. Neither has my daughter. So we're thinking that it worked. And neither one of us got a secondary shot whatsoever. I think she got the first one and didn't react, if I recall correctly. Maybe not. But she has not had shingles. I've not had shingles since then. So I think it worked. So even though the vaccines for this beer bug have not been as thoroughly vetted, you can bet your bottom dollar that the Food and Drug Administration and the I can't even think what they're called now, and I talk about them all the time on here. Everybody in the U.S. government connected with healthcare, let me just put it that way, is watching. And the side effects that I've seen are minimal. I mean, there are some that do have bad side effects, and but here's what I want to say. If you're going to walk across the road, you might get hit by a car tomorrow. Life itself is unsafe in the way it is, and you just have to mitigate the risks. So mitigate the risks. If you're too sick to take this and your doctor says don't do it, don't do it. If your doctor says, oh yeah, go ahead, try it, because this is one of the few ways that this is ever going to end, is if we eventually get everybody who can walk, crawl, slither on their belly, reel in, hobble in, whatever. That's going to be the only way I think we're going to end this, is get more people vaccinated and for everybody to keep masking and keep doing the social distancing thing. Real, I don't know what it's like for you where you are in the Southwest, but here it's pretty bad. I've been watching the maps of the U.S. because I'm worried, because I'm supposed to be going to visit family back east in September. And now I'm like, I don't know. And my mother keeps nagging me to come visit her in Louisiana. And I keep looking at that and going, oh, hell no, I'm not doing that. I was in Louisiana in March. If you wanted to see me, you should have seen me then. So there we go. Now, how does this tie in with KJ and Todd Chrisley? It really doesn't. But I have learned I have to put a different topic to talk about the main thing I want to talk about, because YouTube is so squirrely about everything. They're squirrely about what keywords you use. They're just squirrely. And I think that's really wrong, because YouTube, if nothing else, is a great free communication device One of the people that I follow, Midlife Crisis, who is a doctor who happens to be Indian, but he's not. Oh, Apu, Mrs. Titkemeyer, you need to cut your bushes into cubes or circles. I had an Indian neighbor. I'm sorry, I'm making fun of him now. He was quite nice, but he used to get on to me about the fact that I did not turn my bushes into cubes or square or circles. I was more free form in how I trim my bushes back, which blew his mind. But anyway, long story short on that, Midlife Crisis has lived in Great Britain since he was a child. And he reports on these interesting things. He always makes me think. But one of the things that he did recently was he talked about the beer bug in India. And he put real Indian doctors on. They had conversations about what was going on there. He raised money. He put some charities in there that you could give to and talked about the rates. That's one of the things that I think is really wrong about YouTube. I think we need to know these things. We need to know if citizens on another part of the world are suffering horribly. Like I said the other day, Nicaragua handles it by saying it does not exist in their country. They don't test for it. They don't treat anybody for it. And as a result, they've had a lot of people die. Prairie, Todd Chrisley is a reality show star. I didn't hardly know who he was. I'd seen him once or twice before all this started because my husband watched a couple of Chrisley episodes and he really liked him. Todd Chrisley is a guy who lives in Atlanta. Well, he lived in Atlanta. He was a big realtor in Atlanta. He made millions on the real estate market in Atlanta. He moved to Nashville with his family, and he has a reality TV show, and he is the sassiest white man I have ever laid eyes on. That I think is why his show is popular, because he says outrageous things. Like last night on his podcast that he gave where he was going after Katie Joy, he was getting ready to sue. He was saying crazy stuff like, if the shoe fits, put that bitch on and walk on it. I mean, I can't be sassy as he was, but he says stuff like that. And if you look at last night's stream, there's a link to Spotify, to his podcast on Spotify, where it talks about his history. How this concerns me is Katie had first started talking about him back at Pathos like 3 years ago. She had all these very nasty posts about him, speculating about his sexuality, even though he is married and has a pile of children. And number two, no one else's sexuality is anybody else's business. It's your own business. Do whatever you want as long as you're not harming children or animals. The rest of us could care less, mostly, I think. So she made it about his sexuality, and she speculated on some family drama going down between him and his daughter, Lindsay. She sucked up to Lindsay and got some hot tea from Lindsay about the family disagreements. And then she ended up posting all of that, writing articles about it on Pathos and putting it up, along with her things about Tati Westbrook and Tati's vitamins, and saying that James Westbrook had killed his mother, which clearly he did not. So it's a similar sort of thing, but there's a difference. Todd's not trying to flip her to talk about anybody else, like Tati was using the lawsuit to get the Clark Swanson information. Todd has a lot of money. Todd's not trying to flip anybody. Todd is mad. He is big mad. Todd is big mad. He says that she's interfered in his relationship with his eldest daughter and his other children, that she has just made the awfulness of family disagreements even worse. And you and I and the lamppost, we know that family disagreements happen and family members don't speak to each other for sometimes months, years. It just happens. We're all human. We're all going to screw up. Catholic Kentucky girl, Tati wanted info. Todd wants to wipe the floor. That's exactly right. He is loaded for bear and he is angry. And that's one thing I can tell you about Southerners. I don't know about his type of Southerners, but in Louisiana, if you piss somebody off, they're coming for you in every way, shape, or form. So I was talking about this earlier too, Prairie. The second all this went down, and he talked crap about Katie on his podcast, we started seeing new figures popping up on Twitter that are trying to get the old heads of us who are in the, and not in the anti-Katie Joy, but the Katie Joy truther or opposition community, trying to get them all to take real life. I think you should drive by the house. I think you should do this. I think you should do that. I think you should call CPS. Now, if that doesn't sound suspiciously like somebody connected to her coming up with this, I don't know what does. I think that they're trying to chum the waters for her so she can scream, yeah, look at all this. I'm being stalked. But the thing is, most of us are looking at this going, oh my goodness, don't ever go real life. Don't harass anybody. Don't show up on their doorstep. Don't call CPS. Try not to call law enforcement unless she starts saying she's going to kill herself again, which she does say that from time to time. And taking a responsible step when someone says they're about to end their own life is responsible. So that's about the only time I could ever recommend going real life is when you get these people that issue threats on their own life. That's about it. The rest of it is just noise and distraction. And I think she's trying her damnedest to get all the attention off of her. She tweeted last night repeatedly about today him going to court in his taxation case. So there's a lot of the whole this narrative spinning she does. And probably what's interesting about it is Todd Chrisley has no filter. He has zero filter. He just says what's on his mind. And sometimes it's actually pretty funny, I got to say. I had dismissed him as just a silly reality star. Like I said, I only saw bits and pieces of the show once or twice, and my husband was zooming around had the clicker, was zooming around going, I like that guy. I like Todd Chrisley. I'm like Todd Chrisley? I blew him off as just another silly reality star. Since I've done some digging, he's not just a silly reality star. He's a little bit more. He's extra. That's all I'm going to say. He is extra, and he is dramatic. You think Katie is dramatic? She has just met somebody who takes it up to 11. Okay, so this ought to be interesting. I'm urging everybody to stay out of this. Don't fall for the baiting of the various trolls that are trying to help her by getting everybody to take the wrong actions. I would even say probably don't even approach Todd Chrisley and say, ooh. I'm all about her. I can tell you everything, because that's inserting yourself. And we saw what happened with the Tati case when Natalie inserted herself, and then little Miss Noble tried to insert herself, and then this one, and Lorianne, and just is like Excedrin headache number 10,191. It was just ridiculous. In asserting yourself doesn't do any good, and it just makes the whole thing. We just need to sit back, listen to Todd, and let karma take its path. Now, there is another lawsuit, at least one I know of, that's coming for Katie again. No, yeah. There's another lawsuit coming, and I look to see that Clark Swanson files one because he is already opposing the information that Katie gave to Tati, is saying it's false. And that's involved in the Tati and Clark Swanson lawsuits. They're already starting to argue about whether she can be trusted to give the right information or not. So I would not be one bit surprised if he doesn't at some point file. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see the Duggars here too. And others. I think it may be a tsunami before this is over with. Prairie, nor do I. Todd can handle this. Last night I was laughing because he was talking about that they're going to go to Minneapolis. Is Minneapolis the nearest big city to Katie? I don't know. that they're going to go to Minnesota and that they are going to do a deposition of Katie. He's sending his lawyers. He says he's going to be going. And all I can say is the tea is going to be piping hot and wild in a way that only a Southerner who's pissed off can bring it. And he will bring it. I believe he will. You still screw with someone's family. When you do that, oh my goodness, you are opening the door to all kinds of stuff. I hope they say too, Kentucky Girl. I am really, really, really surprised they haven't so far, because every other day she has these long Duggar videos where she takes one tiny little bit of Duggar gossip and spins it out to something crazy. It's valuable entertainment for sure. You're right. I have too many irons in the fire to get invested in anything, KJ. Same here. I just have so much other things going on, including my own crazy health thing, which I'm about to start therapy after I get back from my second U.S. trip that's upcoming. I'm going to start therapy to see if I can regain some walking, even though I know that at 6 months, whatever you have with a stroke is usually whatever you have. I'm also looking at a surf school in Brazil that has had extremely good luck with working with stroke victims to help them regain their balance using surfboards. Now, I used to surf. I haven't surfed in many years. The most I've done in a long time is boogie board, and I don't even have the balance to do that now. If I could regain the balance enough to lay on the board and ride in, it would be the most awesome thing in the world. And if I could walk without having a cane. They better live stream that. It's going to be a circus. Kentucky Girl, exactly right. That's one thing I know. I know that about Southerners, and I know that about Cajuns. Nicest people in the world until you cross them. You cross them and you've earned a special level of hell. They don't let go. They don't forgive. They don't forget. Except that I will say this about Todd. Todd claims to be a Christian. And he was talking about it last night because he said that Katie Joy needed Jesus. She needs Jesus, according to Todd. And he said that, and I just kind of died laughing. I just died laughing about that. And then I thought, well, he's a Christian. So if she could take a humble and apologize, publicly apologize and retract everything she said, and approach him in that manner, this might all be over with. And everybody, running around going, oh, this is going to be the best thing ever. He's going to kick her ass, blah, 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 blah. That may not happen. She may fold faster than Superman on laundry day. And that's what I think we're going to see here. I think she's going to, when she realizes just how serious he is and that she's not going to be able to manipulate her way, narrative her way out of this, we may see a statement from her saying, I defamed Todd Chrisley. I said X, Y, and Z, and they're all wrong. I'm sorry. If we see that, we know she's settled and that he's accepted it. Todd's a Christian. He does believe in forgiveness and second chances. He's a Southerner, so he's got that revenge thing that you have crossed me. You must, I'm not going to say you must die, but you must pay. He's got that going. And those two sides are going to be warring with each other. So if nothing else, it should be interesting. Prairie, I would too, and I don't even like the Duggars. I think the Duggar mother and father have done so many horrible things and exploited those kids so horribly. But if it came down to it and they were suing her, I would have to go be Team Duggar. God, I've even thought about making T-shirts that say Team Chrisley, just because, here we go. Team Chrisley, Team Westbrook. Because in reality, that's what it is. It's whoever is going after her. And like I said, when the next lawsuit gets filed, I think you guys are going to be really, really surprised. And I think that's going to happen. So anyway, that's what's going on here. I'm just like sitting here thinking about it. She needs humility, decency, therapy, psychotropics. That's why, Prairie, that's one thing about her. I think there's something mental driving all of this. There's got to be, because how could you be so completely 100% unself-aware. I don't know about you guys, but I always know when I screw up. Sometimes even before other people tell me, which is really bad because there's times when I've said things, done things in my life that I'm like, I shouldn't have said that, done that, and or taken the action. Recently, and I've talked about this before, I came out of an extremely dysfunctional family in South Louisiana. There was drinking, there was dysfunction, there was mental illness, there was all kinds. And I walked away with a ton of lifelong issues. I'm just going to come right out and say it. And recently, I've come to realize that is where that I have free-floating anxiety. That's where the free-floating anxiety stems from. I now recognize I have it. And when it starts to happen and it starts driving my behavior, now at 61 years old, I'm able to say, now, wait a minute. Why am I feeling this anxious? What's the root of this? Why am I acting like this? What can I do? And there it is. And especially with my asthma, a lot of times, right before I have a real bad asthma attack, I will have either anger or sadness and a lot of free-floating anxiety. And I'm convinced a lot of it's chemical too. I think that if you go through a lot of trauma as a child, it does something to you. It does something to your body. You end up with different brain chemicals and different pathways, neural pathways in your brain that people who've had not traumatic childhoods. My husband was fortunate. He had a wonderful childhood. The only thing I can say negative about his childhood is his father was like top of the world. He was a university dean, a university professor. He started this vet school. He went there. He went there. He was invited to Russia to talk. He was invited here, invited there. By the time my husband was 10 years old, he had gone around the world. Literally, I have his old passport that's got all the stamps in it. And his parents were pretty decent people. I had a good relationship with both of them, but especially with his mother. I adored that lady, and she died almost 4 years ago. It's been. So there's that. But that was very healing for me to be able to receive that kind of treatment and love from somebody who was motherly rather than the things that went on in my own household. But it's taken me all this time to get to the place where I can take a look at this and say, okay, this is this free-floating anxiety that has no basis in reality, doesn't line up with a damn thing. I need to just flip the birds and go on. So there it is. She has admitted to neuropsych issues, accused people of making fun of her because of said issues. Now, that's unfortunate. We should never be throwing rocks at somebody because they have those issues. Even though she's irritating and I'm dying to see what's happening to this lawsuit, I wish her the best in that regards. I also wish that she settles and that she doesn't lose her house, her husband, or anything else, because I think Todd Chrisley is probably going to ask for her only real asset, which is going to be her YouTube channel. Because I don't know how much equity she has in her house. Todd has said she has nothing to take. Well, she has that YouTube channel, and I'm sure it's valued at a certain amount of money because of the amount of money she's making. Prairie, I'm convinced of that. I was born with asthma. I had really bad asthma during the majority of my childhood. But even today, I can look back and see that my asthma was the worst when my parents were not getting along. My parents were fighting. The asthma was a whole lot worse. To this day, I tried not to worry, but I tend to be a worrywart. That's where my husband and I are a good match. He worries about nothing. He's just going around do. And I'm like, okay, I'm worried about this. What's the worst thing with this scenario? Blah, blah, blah. So I've always joked and said I'm going to be the one that keels over and dies of a heart attack because I'm worried about everything. And he's just bumbling along in his happy-go-lucky way. And there's that. I've joked about that. My man is almost 70 years old, and he is on nothing. Oh, I'm spinning again. Okay. Okay, you guys, I got to go. It's Costa Rican. Let me say that in here. Costa Rica cable sucks, because it does. And I'm ending this. Okay, so I'm gone. 40 minutes is a long time for me.